So this week we are making a fruit crumble. I'm going to use rhubarb that I have just picked from the garden, and so it grows with these like fantastic huge big green leaves on them. So I've just taken that off and given it a really good wash. You could also make this with apples, you could make it with berries, so even if you wanted to get like frozen berries, they're really easy to get in supermarkets now and they're always a bit cheaper. You could use them too, so whatever fruit that you have that you'd like to include. You can do a mixture of two as well, so you could do like an apple and berry crumble, you could do rhubarb and apple crumble. So we're going to stew our fruit first before we put the crumble on top to put it into the oven. So with the rhubarb, I've just washed it really well. I'm going to slice it up into small little pieces, so about that size. If you're doing an apple, you'd need to peel it and then slice it up. And then pop it into your saucepan with a spoonful of water, so about a tablespoon max of water, and just let it stew down a little bit. Okay, so I have my fruit on stewing at the moment, so just on kind of a medium heat, as I said, just with a spoonful of water in it, and just give it a stir every couple of minutes. I'm going to start to put together my crumble topping now. So I'm going to actually weigh straight into my mixing bowl. If you prefer to weigh into individual bowls, that's fine as well. So we're going to use 150 grams of plain flour to start with. Okay, so to my flour, I'm going to add 75 grams of margarine or butter. I'm using margarine today, but if you want to use butter, you can. If you're adding straight into the bowl, make sure you add it in small amounts, because obviously it's very hard to take it out when you're weighing it like this. And again, if you wanted to weigh it into an individual bowl, you can do it that way as well. If you take your margarine or your butter out of the fridge before you start, makes this a little bit easier to make as well. So 75 grams is what we're looking for. Okay, and the next thing then that we're going to weigh out is our sugar. So you can use brown or white sugar. I have white for today. If you use the brown one, it gives it a different kind of a colour to your topping. I'm going to weigh this out into just a small cup, or if you had a small little dish, you could use that either. And we're going to use 50 grams of sugar today. And make sure you weigh this out before you start to rub in your butter to your flour, and you'll see why in a minute or two. Okay, so I have my rhubarb starting to cook down nicely here. So you can see it there, it's still quite solid pieces, but it's starting to release some of its juice. So I'm going to leave it until it's all completely soft, cooking away, and just make sure to give it a good stir every so often. Okay, so I have my flour and margarine here, and I'm going to rub my margarine into my flour. So it'd be the same as if you were making scones or something like that. So we're using our fingertips just to break up the butter or margarine and make sure it's completely mixed through the whole mixture. We're going to continue to do this until it looks like fine breadcrumbs. Okay, so when your crumble mixture has come together, so you have no large lumps of margarine left in it, kind of looking like breadcrumbs, we can add our sugar in next. And the reason we have this pre-weighed out is we can kind of use this to help get any of the kind of butter or flour that is stuck to our fingers off. So it's just handy to have it already weighed out there, ready to go in. And this gives you a chance to break up any little lumps of sugar you might come across as well. Okay, so this is kind of our basic crumble mixture to go on top. If you want to, you can add a couple of different things to it to kind of change the texture of it. So one thing you can add is a spoonful or two of porridge oats. So I'm going to add just a tablespoon of porridge oats through this. Might add two. You can add some chopped nuts through it as well, so walnuts or pecans, anything like that. And just stir it through. And then set that aside until you have your fruit ready to go at the bottom of your crumble. Okay, so I'm just coming back to my rhubarb now. You can see here it's gone completely soft at this stage. So that is ready to go at the bottom of our crumble. I'm going to add about a tablespoon of sugar to this. I don't want it too sweet, so it depends on your personal taste how much sugar you want to add. And I'm just going to stir that through and just give it a chance to dissolve while it's still on the heat. And then that's ready to go into the bottom of our ramekin dishes. Okay, so I am going to actually do little individual crumbles. So I'm going to pop them into these little dishes here. And so I'm going to grease them now in a second. If you want to do like one large crumble, you could use a oven-proof dish such as this one here. I'm just going to use my margarine sheet that I finished off. You can still see there's a bit on it there, so I'm just going to use that to quickly grease the inside of my dishes, just to make sure it doesn't stick. If you think there's not enough left on it, you can always just take a little piece off of the next block. Okay, so I have my little ramekin dishes that I've greased here. I've just popped them on an oven-proof tray just to make it easy to put them in and out of the oven. So I'm going to add a couple of spoonfuls of my stewed rhubarb to each of these. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to spoon my lovely topping onto each of these. With a crumble, you don't want to squash your topping into your fruit mixture. You want to leave it loose on top of them. So you can see I'm not flattening it down or anything. I'm just sprinkling it on top. Okay, so as you can see, I have all of my crumbles topped there. I have a good bit of crumble mixture left over, so I'm going to pop that into a jam jar and seal it up, pop it in the fridge, and it'll be all right for 2 to 3 weeks in the fridge. And then I can stew some fruit in a week or two and just have my topping ready to go. So these are ready now to go into my preheated oven at 180 degrees Celsius until the topping goes nice and golden brown. I've just taken my crumbles out of the oven there now, so you can see the fruit has kind of bubbled up around the sides, looks really nice, and they're a nice kind of golden brown colour. So just let them cool for a couple of minutes so that they don't burn, and then they are ready to eat. So you can serve these with some fresh cream, with some ice cream, or maybe with some custard, depending on what you like. You can see here I've just popped my spare crumble mixture in a jar, so I'm going to pop that in the fridge, and that'll be fine in the fridge for 3 to 4 weeks.